Welcome, folks, to The Uncommon Good with Bo Bonner and Dr. Bud Marr. Every week, diving deep into the truth of Catholic social teaching and restoring all things in Christ. The Uncommon Good, live from Iowa Catholic Radio's Mercy Live Up Studios.
Uncommon Good is on the air. I'm Bo Bonner. Uh-oh.
I'm Dr. Bud Marr.
There's Bud. How are you doing there? This is The Uncommon Good. We're coming to you live from various parts of the nation. I am in Des Moines, Iowa, in the Iowa Catholic Radio Mercy Live Up Studios here in Des Moines, where I am the director of the Zeta Institute for Foundation in Ethics and Leadership and director of Mission and Ministry at Mercy College of Health Science. You can find us at zetainstitute.com and mchs.edu. Bud, you're usually in Pittsburgh, but where are you at today?
I'm in Fort Calhoun, Nebraska, the first military fort west of the Missouri River. So there you go.
You're currently captured and imprisoned. No, that's where you're
I'm
there.
not in the fort.
Yeah. You're visiting family on this Thanksgiving week. You normally you're out there at NINS, National Institute of Newman Studies, but you get to take a break and check out the old stomping grounds. How's it going out there?
It's going pretty great. No, Nebraska is a fine place.
Is it still snowing like your 9-3 victory last week, or 9-6 victory? Excuse me.
Oh, that was awesome. Yeah, the Huskers over Michigan State, and the journalists love the snow because it creates for very iconic photos.
So on this Thanksgiving week, like we said, a lot to be thankful for. I know many people in Des Moines were thankful that you and your family got to stop by on your way to Omaha and Points, Nebraska. Right when I was walking in and getting ready to come to the show, the Calmettes literally stopped to roll down their windows. And I thought they were going to be all like, "Man, Bo, it's great to see you." But they're like, "Man, thank you for bringing Bud finally, Bo. Maybe you should do that more."
Well, I was going to ask you during the intro, since it's that season, what for you is the quintessential Thanksgiving dish? Like, what do you need at the dinner to make it worth it all?
It has to be too much, whatever it is. I think that's the essential part, right? No, I really like gravy, and the fact that on Thanksgiving we give a lot of leeway and elbow room to putting gravy on all sorts of stuff.
Oops, I just poured gravy on my sweet potatoes.
Guess we're going to try gravy and sweet potatoes this time. No one can stop us. It's Thanksgiving. Actually, I'll tell you what, my favorite is there's this broccoli cheese sort of casserole thing that my great aunt makes, and I thought like it must be this like ages old, like, wise dish that would be hard to make, but it's really like cream of broccoli and cheese whiz or something like this. It's something really simple, but you put gravy on it and it's wonderful.
That's awesome. Yeah, I like to create the gravy volcano, make the mashed potatoes into kind of a mountain, and then just have it explode.
Do you, and I do this in Oklahoma, so you're in Nebraska and you lived in Iowa, do you put corn in said gravy mountain, or do you keep your corn and potatoes sequestered?
I keep corn separate. I mean, if Nebraskans stand out in any way, like we have our own salad dressing that we're known for, and I know in the news you're kind of supposed to be avoiding romaine lettuce now, so I have to figure out something to put Dorothy Lynch on top of.
Oh.
The show's not sponsored by Dorothy Lynch, but it is delicious.
No, Robin, my wife, lived in northern Kansas, and they all acted like Dorothy Lynch was a very obvious choice, and I never grew up with that. So that must be, all you High Plains drifters, Dorothy Lynch is your go-to.
It's kind of like Tangy Ranch. It's delicious.
Well, so as always, sponsored by Cartridge World, 801 73rd Street in Windsor Heights. I suppose that if you want to construct the perfect gravy potato volcano and someone needs instructions, you go over to Cartridge World, Bud, you get your cartridges, and you can print out as many of those instructions as you need.
I keep waiting for your angle to be like printing Christmas cards and things like that, but you're like really holding off on the Christmas season.
That's right.
And sticking with gravy, volcano instructions, I like that.
Yeah, it's war on Advent, Bud. Come on, help us out here. And then also, as always, brought to you by Mercy College of Health Sciences. it's always a fun week during Thanksgiving because you can tell that the students they enjoy the time off. And if you're one of those professors that say, you know what, that last part, just go ahead and do it online, you can be king for a year because I'm sure they're ready for the turkey and the break.
Yeah, no, I mean, I stopped by Mercy College on Monday, and it looked like some great things are going on there. I was really impressed with the new structures you guys have built. That facade on 6th Avenue right before you reach 235 is an eye-catcher.
Yeah, we really haven't finished up all the details for the Bud Marr Memorial Colossus, where it will stand above the skyline. But, we got to raise the funds in order to get the statue of you built. I'm
pointing my finger and shouting, make sure you use footnotes in your research paper.
Yeah, it's just at the bottom of it, it says don't use Google. No Google.
I thought I remembered that guy being kind of nice, but his statue makes him look like an angry person.
Well, yeah, it's the warning for all people writing papers. Well, Bud, who do we have on the show today? I'm looking forward to this. I was looking at his book. We're not always getting children's books authors onto the show, but I think this is going to be a neat one.
Yeah, so today we have Dr. Matthew Mehan on, and he teaches at a day academy, so he's really involved in education. And I know, Bo, you and I, for us, that's been a prominent theme on the show. But he's written this really great book for kids. I've actually got it at home. It's called Mr. Mehan's Mildly Amusing Mythical Mammals. So that is a mouthful.
Right. Oh, look at you doing.
Yeah, I think Matthew's ideas about the importance of rhetoric and imagination and poetry all come together to create this really awesome book. To me, it's sort of in a Lewis Carroll style. It's a lot of fun. But I think your kids, through osmosis, are gleaning a lot of great things about the world and life. So excited to talk about it.
Yep, so if you get a chance, get the book. Maybe after you wake up from your turkey-induced glaze and after your football team loses, to get everybody feeling a bit better, you can read this book together. This is The Uncommon Good. We'll be back after these messages with Dr. Mehan. Well, folks, I don't know who's all listening. If you want to text in to say what you're thankful for, that's evidently been the theme so far on Iowa Catholic Radio. I'm looking at the text we have on the text line, the Zip Whip line, 515-223-1150, 515-223-1150. So you can keep it up, hashtag UCG. Or if you want to maybe on the fly invent your own poems, go ahead and give it a try. If you want to do that, 515-223-1150, the Zip Whip line. This is The Uncommon Good, and we'll be back after this.
Everyone lives their life 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. How we use that time directly affects if our life will leave a significant impact or not. Every year, Blessman International leads teams of Central Iowans on 12-day, all-inclusive experiences filled with life-changing personal interaction with the beautiful African children that we serve. Teams are forming now for 2019. Space is limited, so make a decision today to use your time to do something significant in the life of an African child. Learn more and apply for a trip today at www.blessmaninternational.org.
Man up. Gary Dolphin, awesome interview. That was fun.
That was great. I didn't know he was Catholic.
I didn't know he was Catholic.
Really faithful.
And knows what he's doing. Any parting thoughts on the greatest generation?
I was thinking as we were talking to Mr. Dolphin, we really have a responsibility to learn from the example of those who have gone before us.
There's so much to be learned from that generation, especially in today's world.
Do you know what time it is? It's time to man up with Joe Stopulus and Father Zach Kotsky, Monday mornings at 9.
R&R Realty is letting others see Jesus Christ at work through uplifting programs like Man Up, here on Iowa Catholic Radio.
Support for The Uncommon Good is provided by Cartridge World. Cartridge World is an industry leader delivering high-performance printing products that help you save time, money, and print great.
Perfect for businesses, home offices, college students, or busy moms trying to find affordable printing supplies including ink, toner, paper, or printers. For business customers, pickup and delivery are available. Products are guaranteed or full replacement.
Cartridge World, your low-cost, environmentally friendly printing experts, 801 73rd Street in Windsor Heights, 515-564-7400, and online at cartridgeworld.com.
Vitae Family Care is part of the Iowa Catholic Radio family. Pro-life physician Greg McKernan, a DO, has practiced for 27 years, seeing patients of all ages with just about every kind of need. Dr. McKernan lives his faith as a physician and is trained in naprotechnology, allowing him to diagnose and treat many female conditions and even markedly reduce the occurrence of a miscarriage. vitefamilycare.com. Remember, vitae is Latin for life.
We're back with the Uncommon Good. Bo Bonner, Dr. Bud Marr. Bud, how about you introduce our guest for today?
Our guest this morning is Dr. Matthew Mehan. He teaches at the Heights School, an independent school for boys, grades 3 through 12. He's got a BA in politics and MA in English, and earned his PhD in literature with a dissertation on Shakespeare and Thomas More. I don't know exactly where to begin because he's been involved in a lot of great different initiatives. The Center for Thomas More Studies, he was a fellow there. But recently, Dr. Mehan's published an illustrated book of poetry entitled Mr. Mehan's Mildly Music Mystical Mammals. Dr. Mehan, thanks for being with us this morning.
Hey, thanks for having me.
So we do appreciate it. You know, on Thanksgiving Eve, I know for a lot of folks they're maybe wrapping up stuff at work or traveling, so we appreciate you being on. And the intro to the show, I was asking Bo if there's one Thanksgiving dish that for him he has to make sure that he has tomorrow. For yourself, is there something that's quintessentially Thanksgiving cuisine?
Yeah, I mean, sweet potatoes with the marshmallows melted on top, that's kind of the go-to, you know, sort of, there's some things I don't like about Thanksgiving, but I muscle through because that's always at the end of the line. That and my mother's stuffing, but sweet potato.
Nice. Yeah, I've never quite sorted out the difference between sweet potatoes and yams, but I think I like both.
The word thank sweet is more promising.
Yes, add sweet to anything, and I'll choose that one.
Well, I've gotten the chance to read your book to my children, and
oh, wonderful!
I know our conversation this morning is we're looking forward to tackling a few different topics, but I wanted to start off with the book itself, which I really encourage our listeners to purchase. I was wondering, you know, what stood out to me when it arrived is it seems like a very solid book, just physically, and the illustrations. There was a certain kind of intentionality. It was clear to me that you guys went out and found someone who could capture, I think, the ethos that you were trying to cultivate in the book. Would you say, in planning for this book and talking with Tan, was there a sense or a conversation we want to give parents and families something sort of enduring in a culture where a lot of things are kind of bought and thrown away?
Yes, there's no doubt. Life is short, time, money, all these things, and I wanted a kind of one-stop shop book that you could read and reread at multiple ages, and I wanted it to have a level of kind of richness and depth that it wouldn't be a throwaway book that you'd look at once and then, okay, great, done with that, cotton candy. So, yeah, I mean, I pushed very hard for something that sort of defies a lot of the categories in one sense because it's really shooting for a very ambitious category, which is classic. What's that? Sort of, I'm shooting for the stars, swinging for the fences, but I tried to just do that, and Tan saw my pitch, I think rightly. It's oh, okay, this is something that's a keeper. And in terms of artwork, I mean, I came to Tan with all the illustrations completed. My dear friend John Foley and I worked on this book for years, and we actually spent years talking about it first, and then we even spent a year just doing political cartoons together as a kind of training ground to figure out how to sync up my ideas with his artistry, and get my, sort of the tone and the ideas and the symbols transferred. And it actually wound up being kind of the paintings are so interlocked and interwoven into the themes and the poetry of the book. I really think it's a triumph of our friendship, frankly. This learning to communicate with one another. It's kind of a meta part of the book. It's about, words and friendship, but it's also that's how we got all these cool paintings that kind of fit each of the poems so well.
See, I think now Bud and I's friendship is now on call. You called us to the mat. What are we going to do that matches? Yeah.
Right. Get after it.
Yeah. All friends. Boom. Called out. No. One thing that I immediately love about your book, and this is a really hard distinction sometimes for people to get, especially educators, it seems to me. Your book is not fun, it's delightful. And people think that learning needs to be fun, so they dumb it down or make it silly or saccharine or they do a lot of really ridiculous stuff because they think if you can make learning fun, kids will like it. And kids usually see through it a mile away, and it's actually not fun. And it's like, we're doing our worst impression of like, the undercover cop trying to buy drugs from the kids with a skateboard.
Right.
But
Steve Buscemi.
Yeah, right, Steve Buscemi. Yeah. But what I actually think people then further miss in rebelling against this, they're like, no, learning doesn't need to be fun. True, but it's supposed to be delightful, and people forget the poetic education aspect that was woven through everything. You went to University of Dallas. I don't know. I'm sure people listening to us know that there's these sort of meta Catholic arguments between the John Senior types and Thomas Aquinas Academy, University of Dallas. But undergirding a lot of this is to say, if you forget the poetic delight that's involved in education, you're just going to be someone droning on and on about Cicero, whereas your book seems to capture this wonderfully. And I wonder if you can speak about how hard it was actually to make a delightful book instead of just a fun one.
Well, I mean, quite frankly, it was the hard part was just trying to study and come to understand all of my poetic mentors. Like, I spent a ton of time studying Chaucer, Shakespeare, Thomas More, who, by the way, is a famous poet before he was ever the great lawyer, statesman, martyr, and was considered the greatest poet of the 16th century before Shakespeare. But and Horace and Virgil and Homer and Hawthorne, all the lyric poets. I spent a lot of time just doing that, and then when you go, okay, now I know what you can do. And that it really is that intermingling of delight and instruction, which is, the old Roman formula from Horace's Ars Poetica, his famous essay on the poetic arts. That's once you learn how they did it, then you just like, all right, I'm going to practice these arts. And I've been writing poetry, since I was a little kid. But I've been getting a lot better at it as I got closer and closer to these good masters. So in one sense, it was kind of like there's nothing else for me to do because this is what I trained myself to do. But it was the training. But then doing it was actually it was laborious, but it was really fun, like building a deck on the back of your house. Like, it's a lot of work, but it's cool because you're getting it done and you're shaping the wood and you're finding what fits. And then you go, oh, I know where the stairs will go. And, I found the perfect lacquer for this, and we can make this bench, and we can have this little alcove where my wife can put, spice garden, whatever. You start to, hollow it all out and shape it. And that's laborious, but it's been fun.
Well, you mentioned there like a series of all-star poets. And I don't want to project an influence on you that's not there, but I'm curious. When I read the book, I hear a little bit of Lewis Carroll. Like, I can see the threads that you're talking about, but there's also this kind of just like really fun zaniness that's involved. Right. Would you say like Lewis Carroll had influenced you at all? Okay.
Yeah. So at the very beginning, the letter B creature, the Blug, who's this big bumbling fat yellow ball. He's sort of this big fat hippo sphere with tiny little wings that he floats around on. They're both the size of a kidney bean. But he's actually in the painting there. The painting's set at Christ Church Meadowwalk in Oxford for lots of cool thematic reasons, which we could talk about if you want. But in there, Christ Church Oxford is where Lewis Carroll's actually from. It's also where Thomas More went to school. It's also sort of, the premier, college there. But I even put in there the poem. It says, let's see, I'm going to just read a couple lines so you get what I'm talking about. Bumbling by as slow as a slug is the tubbiest creature known as the Blug. The Blug plods a humorous pace, so slow in fact that he came in third place against the tortoise and the hare, who at the finish line stood and stared at this blobular, jolly, gelatinous jug, as across the sky his body he lugged. So the tortoise and the hare are there at the finish line, and the hare is actually a visual quote from Peter Tiniel's original illustrations for Lewis Carroll's Through the Looking Glass. Right, and it's kind of, he's the no time to say hello, goodbye, I'm late. The the blog is like poetry. It's slow, it's pleasant, it's delightful. It's got a purpose. It's on the race, but it's not in such a rush to get the answers and force you to do it. So I'm both playing with Lewis Carroll, but also playing with the Aesop's tradition, sort of. So there's a kind of combination of the crazy zaniness of Lewis Carroll and sort of just whimsy, like something like a big fat thing that can float in the air like the blug, but also heavy matter like morals and ideas. So the blug's a big fat heavy thing, but it can be whimsically done like Lewis Carroll. And I even have the jargon talkie, which is the letter J. And just so your listeners know, it's essentially an alphabet of poems. So each letter of the alphabet introduces you to a new poem and a new mammal. But the letter J creature is the jargon talkie, and essentially it's another homage to Lewis Carroll in the middle of the book, where it's like the kid brother of the Jabberwocky.
Nice.
And I took every sound from the Jabberwocky poem and slant rhymed it and created a totally different poem with a whole message about how not to abuse language and manipulate other people with tricky words.
That's great. That's a great homage to like tell people don't abuse language, but then like very craftily doing it. No, that's fantastic.
Exactly right. That's
yeah,
right.
I love that.
Give us and take us away.
Yeah. So one of the things that I want to light upon that you said about the slowness of poetry and not skipping to the end or that we miss something by trying to act like all learning is a straight line A to B. One of the things I hope people would understand that doesn't come out in the wash immediately is if you teach kids the delight in poems, like in your book, but then like many of these poems of these masters you speak of, what they start, I think someone who's formed with a poetic mindset will start to do that other people won't, is they'll read like the scriptures and they'll see a passage that doesn't immediately seem to have an answer and be completely okay with that because they are conditioned to realize that sometimes the deepest and best knowledge takes a long time, or that it stews, or like I, as a tubby person, I always like to make food metaphors, that it's more like a reduction, right? Like it's when you like make a roux, or that you make a something for a soup, right? That like it can only happen by slow, low temperature cooking. And when I get all the time when I'm teaching something like the Bible or theology, is people just say, "What's the answer?" And you know, the greatness of something like the Scripture, let alone poetry, is to say that it steeps at a low temperature, and sometimes what you immediately see will be surpassed by a much deeper understanding only if you let it. And I think children formed in poetry, like your book, are more likely to understand that and not think like, oh, I don't immediately have an answer, so there must not be any. And I wonder if in your experience as a teacher that you see that that's exactly the sort of impatience deeply ground into these children's souls is part of more than half of the whole of what we're trying to accomplish as teachers in 2018.
Yeah, I wouldn't say more than half the whole. I would say it is half the whole, like, and there is the other half. And I would argue for both of them, but this is the one that the one you just expounded on is the one that is, I think, sort of most denigrated overtly.
Nice.
Right, and sort of attacked. The other one is not known and ignored, and is sort of like just sort of neglected. But yeah, so the whole idea of literary education, good letters, humanities and liberal arts with that understanding of good letters is the purpose, is to understand how communication works, seeing sort of law and art and rhetoric as the sort of the high points of this kind of education. That has been somewhat diminished of late in the 20th century, particularly sort of the emphasis on STEM and things like that. But also in Catholic circles, there's a kind of response to STEM by beefing up logic and metaphysical training to try to combat the sciences. But that might be an enemy we need to fight, but that's not what might create a whole, excellent education. But so Thomas More is a classic example. He makes this startling argument that he pulls from Augustine in some of his letters on liberal arts education and poetry. He says, it's primarily the end goal is to read Scripture well. That's the point, is to read Scripture and to read reality, both the book of the world that God has written and the book of sacred Scripture. And so there's that, exactly what you said, that ruminative Lectio Divina, where you chew on words and you chew on concepts and images and ideas, and you put them into relationship, and you let it sort of stew in a roux, like you said. That's great. I think there is another side to it, too, that I mentioned, which is that poetry is not only the slow, it's also the quick. It's the tortoise and the hare, right? It's the go slow, think about it, but it's also the quick beating of the wings of that fat blug, right? That there's a wit, because Moore and Chaucer talk about the good mother wit, without which all other learning is half lame. That nimbleness of mind to see something definitionally laid out and then go, great, well, now aren't there 50 other ways to say this? Yes. Are these people saying this thing truly or half-truly or all false? What do you mean, half-truly? Well, lots of people have half-truths, right?
Oh, yeah.
There could be, like that kind of nimbleness of mind to see metaphor and speech acts and symbols and relationships, and to see irony and how things are juxtaposed one with another, and you see, there's an implicit message here. All of those kinds of quick-witted, quick-footed, humorous, witty, that power that poetry can give, that's the other side of the coin, too. And I think the two together have been both sort of kicked by the wayside, and all we do is say things like, and I say these things, too, because they're very important, is we need to form the moral imagination. We need good art to kind of to combat bad art and things like that. Like, yes, all that's 100% true, but really there's a sort of a higher register that you get those things if you aim for these higher matter.
Well, and I think it's not to belabor like a distinction in words, but in hearing that, and I think exactly what you're saying, I would make the distinction between quick and fast. And because I think you're exactly right. When we talk about a quick wit, there's something exactly about
haste.
Yeah,
haste is life.
But also, like, eyes wide open, able to really, see the field, and fast is this sort of, impetus to say, I just want to get to the end, and
right.
There's all sorts of things, right? Missing the beauty of missing the beauty of the journey itself, which quickness allows you to have, and then, like you said, this sort of just like breakneck violence of fastness, and we're the worst about it. We want to quickly overcome the problems in Catholic education instead of saying, this is at least 100 years problem, if not more. And do we have the patience? So all of that stuff, we're only getting started. We actually are getting ready to come up to the break. So we'll go to the break here in a little bit and then get back into it. With the minute we have before the break, I just want to give people multiple chances to go find. Where can they go look at your book, or where can they go maybe see a preview of the book to see how that they want to get this for their kids?
You can go. There's an Amazon page for Mr. Mehan's Motley Music Mythical Mammals that has videos and a quick look. You can go to Tan Books. They've got it up on the main page on their website. MythicalMammals.com is my little, sort of launch page where you can buy mugs and T-shirts and prints of the artwork, and also directs you to all the other links to the book, and gives kind of an explainer, more for a secular audience that doesn't understand all of the things about our faith, but it's those are the places you can go. But it's it's on Target's website, it's on Walmart's website, it's on IndieBound, and by all means request your local bookstore to carry it for the Christmas season, so more people get a handle on it.
Well, like I said, this is prime St. Nicholas Day gift for people if they're thinking about that, December 6th. Of course, Christmas, but Bud and I both,
bless you.
Very impressed by the book. So we're trying to get people to think like, get done. Don't worry about Black Friday. Go out and get this book instead. We'll be back with Mr. Mehan himself after this break. Also, right after, speaking of St. Nicholas Day, if you need a St. Nicholas Day gift for yourself as the adult in the room, the dinner in December is Friday, December 7th, 2018, here in Des Moines at the Embassy Suites. 6:30 cocktail hour, 7:15 p.m. dinner, 8 p.m. keynote speaker Dr. Ray Garindy of EWTN's The Doctor is In. If you would like to go, iowacatholicradio.com/events. You can RSVP, or you can call 515-223-1150. 515-223-1150. As always, you can go to iowacatholicradio.com and you can sign up for the newsletter. You can find us on Facebook, Iowa Catholic Radio, or at IA Catholic Radio for Twitter. And you can see great events that are happening, like our dinner in December, or the multiple things that we're doing as well. This is The Uncommon Good. We'll be back after this break.
Are you struggling with drugs or alcohol? Have the same old programs led you to the same old places? Welcome to St. Gregory Recovery Center, the new standard for recovery. St. Gregory is a faith-based program located just outside of Des Moines. Our unique non-12-step approach is different than most other programs. We're designed to help you strengthen your body, mind, and spirit. Don't let your addiction define you. It's time to get you excited about life again. For more information, on the phone, 888-724-3342. That's 888-724-3342.
Rock Valley Physical Therapy, dedicated to your health and well-being. Serving patient needs to making better lives, we have outstanding outpatient physical therapy, occupational hand therapy, and sports medicine rehabilitation. Rock Valley offers unprecedented one-on-one care. With 7 convenient locations in the Des Moines Metro to the southwest Iowa area, we serve the entire diocese. For more information, rockvalleypt.com or 515-221-1621. Rock Valley Physical Therapy, making better lives.
Support for The Uncommon Good is provided by Cartridge World. Cartridge World is an industry leader delivering high-performance printing products that help you save time, money, and print great.
Perfect for businesses, home offices, college students, or busy moms trying to find affordable printing supplies including ink, toner, paper, or printers. For business customers, pickup and delivery are available. Products are guaranteed or full replacement.
Cartridge World, your low-cost, environmentally friendly printing experts, 801 73rd Street in Windsor Heights, 515-564-7400, and online at cartridgeworld.com.
Why give to the Catholic Tuition Organization? To help families who want to send their kids to our Catholic schools and just can't afford it. Some donors like to give part or all of their required minimum distribution from their retirement account. The 65% Iowa tax credit you receive are a tax benefit you just don't want to pass up. Ask your tax advisor or contact us online, ctoiowa.org. The bottom line, it's for the kids and their future.
Back with The Uncommon Good. Bo Bonner, Dr. Bud Marr. Bud, take it away. Reintroduce our guest for us out there in Nebraska. Well, you're in Nebraska. You get my point.
Yeah. We're really grateful to have Dr. Matthew Mehan on the show this morning. He's been involved in all sorts of educational endeavors, but he's recently published a great book on mythical mammals. It's Mr. Mehan's Mildly Amusing Mythical Mammals. Matthew, thanks for being back with us for the second half of the show.
Yeah, no, great. Very good.
So I'm curious, as a father of 6 myself,
oh, nice.
I'm wondering, with you publishing this book and it being geared specifically towards children, what your own kids' reviews of the book have been.
I mean, they love it, but they love their daddy, so I never trusted them. But I farmed it out to some cousins and friends, and they really liked it. I think the older ones like more the glossary and things like that, and all the games to search, and the little ones just like the really funny little mammals and the paintings and the quick rhymes of the early poems. But generally, a number of them have memorized the poems. We had a poetry contest at the Heights School called the Competition of the Bard that we have twice a year, and a bunch of the grade school students had memorized some of the poems, which was really fun and rewarding for me, but a little embarrassing. But it was still great to see them all getting into it, and they particularly liked the Rare and the Blug and the Lundrigan. So yeah, it's been well received. I mean, I think people like it. It is it is one of those books, like you said, it's not fun. It's more of like, what is this mysterious thing with all these beautiful pictures and strange, wonderful rhymes? And yeah, I'm laughing here, but I'm also kind of a little like thrown off kilter. Like, what is going on here? And it's kind of just designed to draw you in. But my thought is, I think it's an acquired taste in one sense, because it's very high toned, and most kids are used to things that are very low. But I think they appreciate it, like you said at the beginning of the first segment. They do. They're like, oh, this book was meant for me, but I'm treating me much more seriously than I'm used to being treated.
Well, yeah. And on that note, I was talking with I forget what this. I was at some book club I was at, and trying to get people to talk about poetry, and they'll be like, it's hard for us to get into poetry. We were never really taught poetry. How do you get into it? And they have this idea that there's classics, and we should be reading them. I think we were reading Gerard Manley Hopkins, and for some people, and I always joke around that Hopkins will sometimes be like the go-to for Catholics, and you're like, it's relatively complex comparatively. He's a
demanding poet.
Yeah, I'm just like, that might not be the place to start. But so they're like, well, where do you start? And when you start thinking about children's poetry and what really grabs children, people think it's dumbing it down or this fun stuff, but it's something much stranger than that. I think of Winkin', Blinkin', and Nod, right? To me, that's always the sort of bellwether that, like, it's really its sort of mystical strangeness that has made it such a enduring poem for children. Not only is it beautiful and rhythmic and all these things like this, but you think of everything from like The Little Prince to there's just all these children's books where they're not fun, but they endure because they're a different world that, like you said, it takes some initiation to get into. And I think that sometimes it's these authors where kids feel for the first time they're taken seriously. Like, you have to make some effort to get into this world. And I think that's a lesson for all of us in education to think of, is kids actually like when you suppose they got to make an effort to get into a world instead of just endlessly dumbing down everything for them.
Yeah, I mean, I always liken it to, Tolkien's interminably long discussions of countryside.
Right.
In the beginning of the Fellowship, when they're traveling, and you're like, what? Page after page. And I remember reading that as a kid going, unbelievable. Can we please another page of this rock defile and how the trees go down? You're like, well, I got to push through this, and then you realize, it was worth the investment because now they're acting in this space that's totally realized for me, right? And you had to do a little work to get there, right? To have the imagination fully built out. So I think there's always this tension of, it has to both delight, but it needs to be something that's not just sugar, because if it's just sugar, you've abused your audience.
Well, we'll do this with sports and stuff, right? We'll be like, kids won't play hard if it's just for participation medals, and then we go into education and we're just throwing out participation medals. And like, God bless you for making a book that's not a participation medal. And that to me is a lesson we all need to hear. Even when it comes to something like religious education, stop making it like you're just getting a participation medal because you showed up to hear someone sort of talk about Jesus, right? Like, we do more. Like, kids want more. They want to believe that what you're trying to teach them is important.
Can I read one that's sort of one of the most haunting ones?
Yes.
It's the Inawala, the letter I creatures that live up in the mist of these trees in this jungle. And it has one word that I have in the glossary called periegetic, which means a pilgrim song. A song that must be sung when you're on a difficult pilgrimage, right? And that's the choice to do something delightful, interesting, strange, and wonderful, but that hurts your feet and makes you sore and is kind of laborious, right? So the Inawala is kind of, it's almost halfway through the book, kind of encouraging you to finish the book. But it's more than that, obviously. And we can talk about it if you want. But if you'll indulge me, let me just read one poem.
No, please do so.
Yeah, that's great.
The Inawala. Walking through deep jungle paths, passing cool and trickling baths, footfalls pressing loamy earth in our mythic place of birth. This and more is done in search of the Inawala's perch, up in treetops old as seas, swaying in a tropic breeze, giving out its haunting call to the other Inawal. Inawallas form a pair, rock together in the air, cock their heads and prick an ear whenever a searcher ventures near. Inawalla tails are long, like a periagetic song. That means seekers on the ground see two tails come floating down. One is royal bluish-brown, the other's red and soft as down. Inawallas know the pain seekers take to come through rain, nettle, heat, and hardship great, just to find a treed primate. Cries of pity fill the air as if to say, "You're finally there." Hoping seekers leave with glee, Inawallas let them see, not themselves, they don't descend. Nonetheless, they deign to send flowing tales of blue and red down to touch the heart and head. Many fail and in despair sit and pout and clutch their hair. Many will not touch a tale, though the Inawalla's wail beckons them to search once more, struggling through the forest floor. Inawalla, walla way, don't give up, they seem to say.
Yeah, so, first of all, that is fantastic, and I love, like you're pointing out, you throw in words that already, just by context, a kid can start to get, what it might mean, and so then you have the glossary for them to go look at. But what I'm struggling with is that Inawalla seems like a perfect name for this creature that doesn't exist. And so, do you have any insight as to where you came up with Inawalla and why it was so fitting for creatures that, like you said, beckon us forward on a pilgrim journey?
It has about 5 different resonants, but I'll give you one of them.
Sounds good.
Because a poet has to remain somewhat mysterious.
Understand.
But if you, Walla in Hindi actually means man, and so I know man. And that is meaning whatever this creature does, it understands you. It knows what you are, and so it encourages you and it helps you along, right? So I know man. It's also so that's one, but then it's also I'm no man. So I'm something more and something mysterious than that.
Oh, that's fantastic. All right, bud, you got to ask a question, or I'll keep asking questions. Sorry.
No, what stood out to me about that poem, Matthew, and one thing that I love that you're doing there is something, unfortunately, that American Catholic culture, I think, has largely lost, and that's pilgrimage and the role of pilgrimage in sort of discipleship and things like that. Have you been on pilgrimage yourself? Was there kind of a pilgrimage that inspired that sort of thing? Is this kind of a way to cast a vision for Catholics, like, let's not forget this great tradition that was such a crucial part of so many of our ancestors' lives?
Yes. I went to and did the pilgrimage with a bunch of my students on the El Camino de Santiago de Compostela, and we did 100 miles in 5 days, and it was a life-changing, wonderful thing for them. It was beautiful and important for me. I also did the pilgrimage of World Youth Day in Denver, which I don't know if you guys were aware of that, but it was they kind of misplanned it, and you had to hike 20 miles into this park and then get no sleep and then hike back out. That was another one that was a little different.
A mile up, too, huh?
Yeah, that's right. It was insane. But, no, I actually, that experience of the pilgrimage in Santiago was very powerful. In fact, I got injured on the last day and had to cripple along with a cane. I looked like a sort of messed up young Gandalf.
Nice.
And I actually I wound up writing a poem about it, which I don't have in front of me from memory, but I wrote a beautiful poem that I gave to everybody, and we read at the ground zero. So poetry and pilgrimage for me have been inextricably linked for a while.
I've always heard with the way in Spain too, you have to get injured somehow. One guy I know got sunburned really bad on one side of his face, and the other ear got frostbitten, and he said, that's about right. So, that's how pilgrimage works. I guess, we're getting towards the end here. One thing I really want to talk about, it goes with pilgrimage, but you also, in the poem you read, specifically talked about, someone in sort of grief or despair or sadness pulling at their hair. And, that starts to be something I know that your book weighs in the balance, right? Like, so despair and sadness and gumption and zeal, or, however people want to put this, something that I think just strikes at the heart of the transition from childhood into adulthood, right, is how do we weigh the fact that there are things in the world that rightly make us sad? What do we do with this sort of like energy and zeal that we don't know where it comes from and exactly how to, channel it? And it seems to me that when people think about the ways we're disserving our children and the sort of horrific implications that can have, I don't think we need to review everything in the news to make this obvious to people, that it's exactly those two things that we don't really talk about, how to be sad and how to have zeal, and that, again, your book tries to thread that through in a deep way so that maybe parents can have these conversations with their kids.
Yeah, and just have moral archetypes of these things, too, of the sort of, oh, look, that's the kind of person who falls to striking himself, right? He despairs in self-harm when he needs to keep going. And the Z line at the end of the poem is a kind of a model of loving zeal and friendship, where there's a kind of burning and ardent love for God and for man, but that you actually need to see models of this, and you need to, for instance, any music, and I think poetry falls under song in a certain sense. Mm-hmm. All song is an imitation of soul, right? So you as a writer have a duty to sort of give an imitation for people of a good soul. Now, you have to give sad souls, too, but then you have to explain through the art, not directly and overtly, like, this person is sad or bad, not like that, but you give a kind of imitation of this person's weeping and sad, and that's a loss, that's tragic, that's a mistake, right? And here's someone else in joy who knows that there's trouble and knows that there's difficulty. So the Inawala, the narrator, at times when he's talking about some of them, he laughs at some of their ridiculous folly. Other times he does weep. The voice of the poet weeps over some of these creatures that just won't stop weeping over their own troubles. And sort of managing these emotions is a kind of very subtle thing I've tried to do in ways that you can see very clearly, and I hope in ways that you don't see very clearly, frankly, right? That's one thing that I think really good poetry does, is it works on you in ways that you don't know. Just like you know that when you're setting a good example for a friend, the best kind of example is when they don't even notice that they're getting an example set for them, right?
Yeah.
Like right. If you're going around like I want you to make sure you know that I am being an incredibly good example for you right now.
Like, thank you for letting me know. I appreciate
how
that.
Repellent, how absurdly repellent, right?
Yeah.
So nobody listened to what I just said about what I'm doing in the poetry, because I don't want you to know. But there's a kind of weird thing that poetry does, that it hides in its weeds and plays this little game that forms the soul. It forms the passions. So, like for instance, and the Mixie is the creature that darts around in the reeds. And he's the letter M creature, Matthew Mehan, Mr. Mehan's Mildly Amusing Mythical Mammals. But the Nole is this super sad creature. And I'm not going to read it to you because it would take too long, but essentially the Nole is this beautiful winged creature that is trapped in a pool of her own tears. Right. And she can't stop singing this very sad song. That's all true. It's true things about how she screwed up her life. But it's unhelpful, right? Because you can say truths, but essentially represent a lie, right? If you go over a litany of your sins on a regular basis with the wrong spirit, not of one of love, of hope, of struggle, of humility, but of sadness, despair, anger, helplessness, right? She has what's called her fitful sorrowing lay, her song. She cannot stop it. So there's a lot of these sort of moral examples, haunting images of sadness. And then there's lots of humorous poems that are designed to kind of teach you how to cheer each other up and cheer yourself up, which I'm not talking as much about, but, that's...
Well, I mean, the two things immediately come to mind, and we're getting to the end here. One is, I think of St. Benedict and his rule ends, near the end, says, there's a zeal that kills and a zeal that saves. And that's exactly what it comes down to, right? Are we going to be zealous for the good things in life? And like you said, where do we get that except through something like friendship and encouraging ourselves on the way? The other thing is did you say it was the Nole? That was the N one?
Nole, yes.
Yeah. I'm guessing that she's a Cleveland Browns fan. And,
not on my mind during the construction of the poems, I'm sorry to
say. Well, Bud, we're getting here towards the end. Is there anything you want to ask? Like I said, we could easily keep talking, but everybody needs to get to figuring out what to do with their sweet potatoes and gravy. So, Bud, anything else before we let him go?
No, Matthew, thanks so much for being with us. I just want to say the fact that you read some of your poetry on air, I know that really warmed Bo's heart. Early in his time in Iowa, he surprised another radio show by doing some poetry on air, and I think for him, more poetry on radio is kind of like one of the things that he's zealous about.
Yeah, I would have to say that it might have been a bold move within 3 months to read The Destruction of Sennacherib on radio, but I was trying to point out how awesome it was, and
sometimes you have to take a wrecking ball to an edifice that's false, right? You just got to crush it.
I came in like a wrecking ball.
That's right. So I made my decision, and I sleep in this bed. So before we let you go, one more time, where can people find this wonderful book, more of your work, and like I said, perfect for St. Nicholas Day coming up, Christmas, etc.?
Yeah, and mythicalmammals.com is the smallest, easiest website to remember. So mythicalmammals.com, just run together. And then Amazon's got it. If you do mythical mammals or even mammals, it's like the third one down. And it's a big yellow blug and a happy little dally in this weird hot air balloon. But it's Amazon, tanbooks.com, and mythicalmammals.com. And then, a lot of, local bookstores may carry it as well.
Well, it's been an honor to have you on the show. Bud, thank you for arranging this. I can't take credit all the time. So, Matthew, God bless, good luck, and like I said, I hope, especially with the upcoming Holy Day seasons, people take our advice and get your book for their kids.
Yeah, I hope so too. Thanks, guys.
Well, Bud, I don't know what mythical mammal we should come up with that points out that we're always good at running the show right up to the 10:53 hour. But before I do the sign off, just want to say God bless, happy Thanksgiving to all of you and yours, and any other Thanksgiving greetings you think the world needs to hear?
No, for myself, when he was reading about the Nole, I was like, I know I'm going to stick that poem with, but I think that's kind of counter to what Matthew was hoping.
Yeah, I know. I had
someone who needs to read that one.
I had a child in mind too, so no comment. So this is the Uncommon Good. May Jesus Christ, the Prince of Peace, reign in our hearts and our families, our city, our state, our nation, continent, hemisphere, world, solar system, galaxy, the whole shebang. This is the Uncommon Good. We'll be back next week. Bud, one more time, we want to make sure to invite everybody to the dinner in December, Friday, December 7th, 2018, in Embassy Suites, 6:30 cocktail hour, 7:15 p.m. dinner, 8 p.m. keynote speaker Dr. Ray Guarendi of EWTN's The Doctor is In. If you would like to make a reservation, iowacatholicradio.com/events or call 515-223-1150. But if there's other ways that people want to get involved by participating in the radio show, how can they do so? By listening.
Yeah, with Advent season coming up, I would encourage everyone to use the radio station to help structure their spiritual life. So you can wake up at 5 and do a gospel in a year, and then transition to the Rosary and a reflection by Father Andrew Winchittle. The Rosary is prayed again at 9:30, and we often have the Chaplet of Divine Mercy at 3 in the afternoon.
And as always, this ministry, and this is a ministry, is not just the people who are speaking on the radio that you hear on air. not only the great people behind the boards or the people running the offices and doing the hard work. It is a ministry shared by us all. We covet your prayers very much so that you pray for this good ministry to continue, but also if you can find it in your hearts and in your checkbook to do so. We're always taking donations so that we can keep this wonderful work going that spans 24/7 a day, that goes through walls, prison walls, house walls, walls of people who don't even know that they need it. It's waiting there for them with wonderful programming local like this, but also national shows. And so if you want to think about donating, you can always go to iowacatholicradio.com or again call 515-223-1150. But I think we've left 30 seconds to say what we're thankful for. Go.
I am thankful for my family. I know that's a go-to one. But, whenever Thanksgiving rolls around, I think about those who we've lost as well. And I think it's timely that the church reminds us to pray for the holy souls during the season where, there might be someone not at the Thanksgiving table who was there last year.
And I'm thankful that pretty soon John Leonetti can no longer buy pumpkin spice lattes. This is The Uncommon Good, folks. We'll be back next week. God bless and have a happy Thanksgiving.
God bless.
The Uncommon Good with Bo Bonner and Dr. Bud Marr is heard every week on wonderful Catholic stations like this one and anytime on podcast. Just search for The Uncommon Good.